Thanks. I'm going to jump in, kind of introduce you to the project, the building itself, and then begin reviewing some sustainable strategies we use. Just a few of them. I'm not going to bore you with all of them. But this is really a set of plans to orient you to the project. There's really three key elements. There's a 4-story office tower on the west side. The left and north is up on this. There's a 1-story education center, which is to the east of that. And then to the north is a laboratory, 1-story laboratory. And the education center is kind of the link between those two pieces. Now quickly, just a couple elevations and an image just to give you scale and massing of the project. Again, the 4-story office tower. The elevation on the left is our south facade. Elevation on the right is the west elevation. And this image is taken from the public plaza, kind of to the south of that. And actually, I'm going to go quickly back. The reclaimed water pond kind of embraces this building, and that image was taken from the plaza. And obviously, reclaimed water, the theme that Katie illustrated, is used throughout. This is an image of the front door, basically. Here, I just wanted to point out that this is a very industrial area, formerly port land, and so that industrial character really inspired both the character and the material choices. Here we're using corrugated metal siding, which is a relatively inexpensive siding material, and we tried to detail it in interesting ways at the corners and the parapet cap, for example. Moving on, this is the south facade and the entry bridge. Again, we really wanted visitors, when they entered the project, to really engage that water feature, so they have to cross over these Ipe deck bridges. And then a closer up view of the west facade and the conceptual source of this pond, nice sculptural element. And the north facade, which is kind of the most private of the four. Here, employees will come out during lunch on nice days, and the lunchroom is behind me in this image. And then finally, just more of a close-up of the entry and south facade, and I'll talk further in detail about the south shading strategy we used. Now to get further into the strategies, methane is a byproduct of the wastewater treatment process, and LOT captures that methane and sends it through a turbine, basically generating power and steam. So it's a combined heat and power plant. And that power, and the kind of diagram on the bottom left, is used both in the project and throughout the plant. The steam loop, we're calling it the low temperature water loop, in this diagram, is basically enabling this project to reduce its energy consumption, as well as it's tying into the Hands-On Children's Museum across the street, which Katie mentioned, one of their partner agencies. So that's the kind of first strategy, the combined heat and power plant. The second is the reclaimed water, obviously used in the pond on site, but also piped throughout the community for use to reduce potable water use in the community. Further, the water reduction strategy in the project is probably best illustrated by the diagram on the bottom right. This is U.S. potable water use. Really, the blue is all of the potable water in the country that could be replaced with this reclaimed water. So, uses like irrigation, toilet flushing, a lot of power plants are very intense use of water. All those things you could use this Class A water for and reduce our potable water. And obviously in this project, I've mentioned it's used in the pond, irrigation, toilet flushing, as well as we used low-flow fixtures. And this is an image of that 1-story education center, where there are 6 different types of toilets that LOT wanted to display to the people visiting the education center. So when you go to use the public restroom, there are these different fixtures that they can see and use. Regarding solar strategies, we really tried to dial each facade into the particular cardinal direction. This is the west facade, showing an external motorized louver system that we integrated into the facade, and it's outboard of the curtain wall. So in the summer months, preventing solar heat gain into the building, and then conversely in the winter months, it basically allows that solar income to passively heat the space. Those louvers are kind of constantly adjusting throughout the day based on the conditions on site. There's a sun sensor on the roof, and it's also tied into the building management system, so it can be overridden depending on the conditions. At the south facade, we used a similar, well, that's actually the same motorized louver system, except here we used it only at the sunshade level and above, and it's inboard of the curtain wall, and it's white and reflective, and those louvers are concave facing up, so they're basically serving as little mini light shelves. Again, throughout the day, they're constantly adjusting for the right proper angle to get the light to bounce and spread across that stretched fabric ceiling and bring daylight as far into the building as we could. Here's an image of an interior office space where, again, trying to describe those lighting conditions. This is summertime, roughly solar noon. We were on site. Another strategy we used was these were the glazed partitions to allow that light to come into the interior of the building as much as possible. And that's an image at the kind of bottom right. It's really just showing kind of technically what that daylighting, what the daylight is actually doing. We also use reclaimed materials throughout the project as well. Kind of the primary use of reclaimed wood came from warehouses that were demolished on just to the east of the property, and the owner took that. They were structural timbers, Douglas fir timbers that they took and had paid someone to mill and store that wood, and then we used it as ceiling and floor finishes in the project. I think this is just a great way to both tie the current, modern building to the history of the site. It's also a great way to really soften the interior kind of finishes, and typically modern finishes are very crisp and clean, and here, there are nail holes, etc., and give it quite a lot of character. We took all those strategies and we also utilized, and kind of how we brought them together was through something called building information modeling. And is everyone familiar with that term, BIM? Is there anyone that's not familiar with that term? Okay, so I don't need to describe it. But our office has been using BIM for about 5 years. We use it on 100% of our projects, and it really has great benefit throughout the project. I mean, it's an amazing communication tool. The image in the top left is, to describe the building to both our client and others that may not be adept at reading two-dimensional drawings. It's also, we used it during construction. We did like clash detection between the steel detailer, their three-dimensional model with nuts and bolts and everything, and we compared it to our structural steel, and we're able to catch mistakes in the process before the steel was fabricated. And we also used it for analysis purposes as well. And the results are, I think, pretty striking. LEED Platinum certification, 80% water reduction, and 61% reduction in energy when you're including that combined heat and power plant energy. I wanted to set that project kind of in context in our office. These are 5 different office buildings we've designed. The first 3 in gray are built. The block project is in blue, and we also have another project on the boards as well that is going to achieve net zero energy. But this is a slide of energy use intensity and obviously a downward curve here. The blue bar, and the difference between the 46 EUI and the 31 is 46 includes the building excluding that combined heat and power, and when you include that as part of the renewable portfolio, it drops that number down. And in the project that is currently under design, that's trying to meet the Living Building Challenge standard. Is there anyone not familiar with that one? So I don't need to. Okay, great. That is shooting to reach those goals, and again, it's a EOI of 18. My understanding is that's going to be one of the most energy efficient buildings, office buildings in the world. I believe the NREL project, I'm not sure what it is. I think it was on the order of 25. But just to give you an idea of how energy efficient the project is going to be. And again, stepping back a little further outside of our office, the AIA has has created this program, the 2030 Challenge, and I think the most interesting thing, the goal being net zero carbon by the year 2030, and where the LOT project fits in to today is we were 61% below, and so we're barely meeting that target. And so obviously it's a very challenging and very kind of a big opportunity for students like you to really jump on board and get us kind of that extra mile. It's very difficult. I mean, we had a very motivated client that was willing to kind of put forth the effort and money necessary to bring it down to 60%, and it's just going to be that much harder to get the next kind of final step. So anyway, just thank you for having us and listening to me, and thank you, SBIC.